Star Wars Battlefront 2 has now been out for close to a month, and we finally have gotten a better idea if this whole controversy revolving around the game's microtransactions has affected game sales. Initially, at the end of November, it was reported that Electronic Arts lost $3.1 billion in stock value, and aside from just that, early sales numbers began to come in, and we found out that in the first week in the United Kingdom, physical game sales of Star Wars Battlefront 2 declined 61% compared with the 2015 installment. One Wall Street analyst acknowledged the disappointing sales numbers, saying we were underwhelmed by the sell-through for Star Wars Battlefront 2 over the Black Friday weekend, which follows a controversial launch for the game. In recent days, we've also now gotten an even better idea of how bad this controversy has hurt Star Wars Battlefront 2. The NPD is reporting that video game sales are up 9% compared to November of last year, but one certain game has gotten some bad news, and if you guessed Star Wars Battlefront 2, you're right. EA's sequel Star Wars Battlefront 2 only sold 882,000 copies in its debut month in the United States. So it was reportedly expected to sell an estimated 1,720,000 units, but another popular game that released on November 3rd, Call of Duty World War II, sold 4.4 million copies in its debut month of November in the United States. So even with Call of Duty World War II having a 2-week head start on Battlefront 2, EA's Star Wars sequel still has some pretty dismal sales numbers. Back in 2015, Star Wars Battlefront reportedly sold 6 million copies in its debut month of November, and also went on to sell another 6 million copies in December. Star Wars Battlefront also released the same day as its sequel, so it's very interesting comparing these numbers. It should be noted though, the 6 million copies Star Wars Battlefront sold back in 2015 was worldwide sales, and I believe it also accounted for some of the digital sales. Now even with that in mind, Star Wars Battlefront was the fastest selling non-sequel PlayStation 4 title ever, and the biggest ever launch for a game based on Star Wars at the time. So seeing that this sequel couldn't even reach 1 million copies in the United States, it shows that a lot of consumers are not happy with Electronic Arts. The controversy can be part of the blame, but also looking at Star Wars Battlefront, the 2015 installment, many fans were not happy with the lack of content that was brought at launch, which you have to consider that some of the players have decided just to pass on it, and also Battlefront 2's poor single player experience has contributed to a lot of mixed reviews. The point is, Star Wars Battlefront 2 has a ton of negative things facing it, and thus far the sales figures show it. But even considering all of this, Wall Street is not convinced that this game will be unsuccessful. Previously, right at Star Wars Battlefront 2's launch, Evan Wingren, an analyst of KeyBank Capital Markets, which is a Wall Street firm, said gamers aren't overcharged, they're undercharged, and we're gamers. This saga has been a perfect storm for overreaction as it involves Electronic Arts, Star Wars, Reddit, and certain purist gaming journalist outlets who dislike microtransactions. And if you thought those comments were outrageous, Wingren went on to add, if you take a step back and look at the data, an hour of video game content is still one of the cheapest forms of entertainment. Quantitative analysis shows that video game publishers are actually charging gamers at a relatively inexpensive rate and should probably raise prices.
Bullshit!
Wall Street analysts have also said that this Star Wars Battlefront 2 mess is more of a short-term issue compared to a long-term issue. Wall Street analyst firm Wedbush still though has said they believe that Battlefront 2 is not a lost cause, with The Last Jedi releasing in the next coming days and Christmas, which could make for a great present. Their words, not mine. But the thinking is that a large amount of consumers who don't follow this type of stuff will buy the game as a holiday present, regardless of its controversies. Recently, Electronic Arts also revealed that they're debating on whether or not to bring back microtransactions or not, with EA CFO Blake Jorgensen saying, over time we'll address how we will want to bring the microtransactions either into the game or not, and what form we will decide to bring it into. While that may sound like great news, I have a firm stance of I will wait until it happens before I give EA any credit, because right now Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a game that was built on microtransactions, which makes it difficult to just take it out. That has been clearly shown in recent weeks since the game launched, with many players complaining about a messy progression system that now needs a lot of work. Let's also not forget that Electronic Arts was also called out for their BS after the beta because many players felt that it was pay to win, and Electronic Arts' response was that they were taking all feedback into consideration, and obviously what they did next was they ruined it even more. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was estimated originally to sell around 13 million copies, and many analysts have acknowledged that it probably will not happen, but it's also that many of them still see potential in this game once the outrage has ended. With Electronic Arts not going with a season pass, it's hard for me to believe that there will just be free updates with no monetization schemes. It never happens for a reason, because it's not profitable, so I just can't see Electronic Arts dismissing microtransactions completely. In some shape or form, Electronic Arts will figure out how to make these free updates profitable, and for now it's a waiting game to see what they decide. But Wall Street right now still loves Electronic Arts, because even with all the uproar, many other money-making titles like FIFA and Madden are still intact. Many analysts have also said that EA's stock, which dropped about 8.5%, which equates to $3.1 billion in value, was way too low, and they're calling this a great opportunity for investors to get in on EA's stock. So yeah, in recent days, EA's stock is back on the rise. While we continue to trash Electronic Arts, it's important to understand that change will only happen if we hit them where it hurts, and that's speaking with our wallets. EA, aside from this Battlefront 2 mess, has had a great year. For consumers, we may not like the games that they're putting out and their microtransaction BS, but they had a successful year, with their stock skyrocketing up. That's why until players stop purchasing and supporting EA's sports games, and really any game that incorporates manipulative microtransactions and monetization schemes, not much is going to change. This controversy that has faced Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Electronic Arts, as seen by EA's upper management and investors, as something that will be forgotten in a few weeks, and speaking honestly, it's very possible that they are right, unless players speak up more often about all the BS things that Electronic Arts and other publishers like Activision try and do. Unfortunately, looking at some of the stocks of some of the biggest publishers like Take-Two, Electronic Arts, Activision, and Ubisoft, you can see the impact of microtransactions, which they are rolling in cash thanks to games as a service. Money is the only thing that talks to these publishers, and until this graph changes, microtransactions and monetization schemes are here to stay. Anyway guys, what do you make of Wall Street's reaction to this Battlefront 2 mess? Let me know in the comment section below, but also make sure to smack that like button if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.